So for this year, I have come up with, okay, good. So let me go back. So this year, what I have done is to come up with themes for each of the months. So for January, we have um, reset, reality, and strategy. So today is resetting, is like setting the foundation. And then next week will be reality, that this is what PMP is all about. And then the last Monday in January will be strategy. I tell people I'm releasing my book this week, and I said multiple times in the book that people fail PMP not because they are not brilliant, but it's because they've not mastered the strategy. So if you are here and you have written the exam but failed, or you are just starting the process, you are in a good place. I'm going to pass on some of the things that I have learned, because if you know me, you know that I failed my PMP multiple times before I eventually passed it. And if I could pass PMP and be one of the forces to reckon with when it comes to PMP in Ghana, in Africa, and globally, then you can do it. Okay. All right. So, like I said, the theme for January is 2026. I'm going to go through the slides. I think they're just about 13 slides. And then I'm going to attend to the questions that you may have. I don't have questions today. Remember, this January, we are just setting the foundation. So, the objective of today's session is to remove confusion. As the exam change, as it not change, how will it affect me? Can I still write the exam? How long do I need to prepare for the exam? Then to align your expectations. I have a schedule of PMP this year, and I am amazed at how many people are not picking the first option that starts 17th January. They are going for February. I'm wondering, why are they doing that? And it's because people's expectations. In fact, somebody called me and said that, "Hello, Jumoke, I've heard about you. I want to write PMP, but I was told that it's a very difficult exam, because the person who told me about it have written the exam 5 times." I couldn't help but laugh, and I said, "Yes, it's a difficult exam, but you can approach it strategically and then pass the exam." Okay, so my hope in January is to help align your expectations, and so that you can see that you can write the exam and pass, and then to help create momentum. Sometimes people need just a little push there, reminder there, and a nudge there for them to write the exam. Okay, so the topics in January, there are three, and here are they. One, today, that's what we'll be treating, PMP in 2026. What is changing and what is not changing? We look at exam structure realities, we look at myth and facts, then we will look at who should write their exam on or before June 2026. Then next week, Monday, we will treat understanding the PMP exam domains. The domains are people, process, business, environment. And you are tested on how, in fact, I see that people fail the people a lot, the exam, because this is where how you manage stakeholders. And for you to manage stakeholders, you have to have identified them, prioritize them, analyze them so that you can prioritize them. Your team, how do you work with them? Feedback and all that. And so we'll look at that next week. And then the third topic in January will be why candidates fail PMP. We'll look at real patterns from failed scripts, how people, is it how they prepare, how they read their questions, their experience and all that. So these are the topics for January 2026. So now let's concentrate on today's session. PMP in 2026, what is changing and what is not. Today we are resetting. In Ghana, if you're in Ghana, you know that the current political party say that they are resetting Ghana. So I'm also resetting the PMP for you. Okay. So why reset is needed? Many PMP candidates rely on outdated information. Recently, I posted something on my channel and said that, okay, people ask a certification, what is it for me? What do they describe it? And I put the link to all the certifications. And PMI's website is always updating information. but unfortunately we don't read. And so some people are holding a PMP is based on PMBOK, and I have to read PMBOK 7 times, 20 times, and all that. So this is why it's important, because I want to help position what PMP actually is. And then, their social media myth, and people are confused, they are scared. This PMP, I won't even write it again, and all that. My promise to you today is that I will help present clear facts about PMP, no hype, and it will be evidence-based guidance. And we are resetting your understanding of the PMP exam. Now, let's look at what is changing. PMI's continuous exam updates. If you've been around for a while, at least I got in contact or in touch with PMI and PMP since 2010. And I know that average of 3 to 4 years, PMI review the PMBOK uh, and now the exam content outline. Previously, up from the time I got to know about PMP and PMI, up to 2nd January 2021, the PMP exam was based strictly on PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge. That was what the exam was based on. And that was when we did input, output, tools and techniques, and I tell people, if in this era you are having your training and what they are teaching you is still input, tools and techniques, and outputs, you have a different courseware or training material, and that is not relevant. So from 2021, PMI introduced what we call ECO, Examination Content Outline, and that is what PMP is now based on. So PMP is no longer based on just PMBOK. The PMBOK is one of the resources that the exam is based on. But when you pick the ECO, that is what the exam is based on. So it's available for us all to download, but if you cannot find it, you can reach out to me. I will share the ECO that we are using from, now, now until June 2026. A new one has come out for the exam from July upwards. So it's normal. PMI is always reviewing the exam. And why do they do that? Now the exam is based on ECO, and is based on market needs and emerging skills, because PMI is constantly conducting survey, with organizations, what are your needs, and all that. And so that influences how PMP changes. So, and that we have emerging skills now. Previously, all we knew was predictive. You plan extensively at the beginning of the project until the end, and you adhere to it. But now you have agile, you have hybrid, you have leadership, because sometimes project fails not because resources like equipment, materials are not available, but it's based on people, the leadership, how you manage people, you yourself. So yeah. And then what is also changing is in the exam, the scenario-based questions are increasing. It's like a, it's like a short story. Some of the questions are like short story. So if you are an engineer, analytically minded people like me, you may struggle a bit, because the CP exam I wrote last, when did I write the CP? I wrote it somewhere last year. I was yawning in the exam because I started my exam, I think 7:30 a.m. I read and I get to a point, I ask myself, what was the first sentence, And so there's going to be a lot of scenario-based questions, judgment-based questions. And this is why some people are failing, because it will test your judgment. So your judgment is not based on, I've been managing projects for 10 years, I know what I'm doing, or this is how we do it in my organization. Often when people answer questions and say, to me, this is the right answer, I laugh in my head. Hello, you are not the author of the exam. So there's nothing like to me. Your response or your analysis of questions should be based on PMI's mindset. PMI's mindset. So, and you need to spend time so that you can work or groom your judgment acumen. You understand? And you can do that through simulator. And then there will be lots of hybrid environment cases. And in fact, it is happening. Most of the people, when you ask them, the exam, how was it? They will tell you most of the questions were on adaptive or hybrid. So hybrid means you have to be knowledgeable about adaptive and you have to be knowledgeable about predictive. Okay. And so when you are reading the question, you're trying to position the question. Is it a predictive? Is it adaptive? Is it hybrid? Okay, is it during initiation? Is it during planning? Is it during execution? You know, you need to situate that. And the question, is it asking me what I should have done to avoid, or what should I do after this, you know, or to address the situation? So you need to process all this information before you start looking for answers. Okay. Now, what is not changing? The three domain structure is not changing. As in from July. So when I say what is changing, I'm talking about when the exam changes in July. All right. So if you're writing the exam from now, between now and June ending, we don't know exactly what date in July the exam will start, but we will start training people from April on the new exam content outline so that they will be ready to write the exam in July. And you, if you have the training on the current ECO, you have from now till June 2026 to write the exam. So we'll still be talking about people, process, business environment. The focus is still on leadership because you are managing people. In fact, when you are answering questions, when you are preparing for PMP, forget about the title in your organization. PMI is looking at you as a project leader. You are managing people. You are responsible for getting resources for the project. So don't say, oh, in my organization, I'm just supporting the project manager. You need to work on your um, mind to start thinking that you are the one in charge. And of course, stakeholder engagement and management. So you are tested as a project leader, not a textbook student. You know, some people, they can tell you what is adaptive, what is predictive, what is hybrid, stakeholder engagement. They can tell you. But when it is presented in a scenario based situation, they can't relate. So it is not enough that you have read in the PIN or in the other resources that you have, but your ability to be able to um, live it, implement it, see it in situation. Like when a scenario is painted, you should be able to tell that this is conflict resolution. This is conflict, and I need to manage it as a project manager. Okay. Oh, this is adaptive. And if it is adaptive, I don't plan extensively from the beginning. So these are the knowledge you need to apply. Okay. Now, the exam structure, there are no direct definition questions. Nobody will ask you define adaptive, define predictive. But when you see a scenario, you should be able to tell this is predictive, this is adaptive, okay? And then you should expect situational judgment. A situation will be painted. In fact, they can paint a scenario and then you know that this is risk or this is issue. You remember that risk has to do with event that may occur. So the event has not occurred. It's a futuristic event which would have likelihood or probability and impact that you would have analyzed. But if you're or if you are working and something untoward happened, you cannot call that risk. You call it issue. So when you're reading question and say that maybe a pipe broke, it's no longer a risk. The pipe breaking and causing flooding is an issue that you must address. Now, that this issue, was it a risk that you identified? If you had identified it as a risk, then you would have analyzed it. You would have determined the probability, you would have determined the impact and make provision. And that is where you have the reserve to be able to handle it. So that is known unknown risk. If it was something you didn't plan, you didn't identify, and it occurred, it is not um, so you don't have response for it. How do you address that issue? We call it work around. You see, so the scenario I painted now is the knowledge that I have about risk, about issue, about response. The response is for risk that you identify, analyze, blah, blah, and then work around is for for risk or issues you didn't plan for. And usually the workaround that you didn't plan, how to handle them, is from management reserve. So having this knowledge and being able to apply it and seeing it in question is very, very key. that is where the situational judgment comes in. And then the questions will also be asking, what should you do next? So be looking for what should you do next? What is the first thing? If you saw a question that is asking, what is the first thing to be done? The likelihood that all the four options are right is high. But out of the four options, like in sequence, let's take risk management for instance. Risk, you know that you first need to identify risk before you analyze. So if you see identify risk, analyze risk, prioritize risk, come up with response. If you are to if there's a question that which one comes first, you know that identifying risk is what comes first. So in reading your question, in fact, I have come up with this strategy when I'm writing exam. I read the question first before I read the scenario. So like, what should you do next? Okay, then I go back to the body of the question itself. So it's important you situate the question correctly before finding answers. Okay, I'll be talking about how to approach question. Read all the question from beginning to end. Read all the four options before you select the right option for you. And the exam structure would include agile and hybrid. And the questions on agile and hybrid, they are more than 50% of the exam. So you can't say, let me concentrate on predictive. After all, I will not get all the answers right. If I'm able to master predictive, please master everything. In fact, master it as if every question you answer, you must pass them, because that increases the effort that you will place on getting ready for the exam. And then this one is very, very important. PMI mindset matters more than your experience, more than your industry background. So stop saying, for me, the answer is this. No, 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 no. I mean, some people can argue. My earlier years of training, I would also be arguing with them. But when I see that you've made make up your mind, I allow you to finish. And then when you are done, I try to tell you that you are not the one who owns the exam. This is the mindset. And the mindset is actually based on um, outcome of research. In 2011, when I had my training, I remember how I held the class for like 1 hour, arguing with the instructor when he said that you don't have to have um, the technical know-how to manage projects. So I was like, so if you're not an engineer, how can you manage engineering projects? How can you And I was so convinced I was um, speaking intelligently. But now I laugh at myself because the man just told me, he's an elderly man, he was an elderly man, he's no more of blessed memory, Joshua Oda. He said, Jimmy, you are thinking of doing. That's why knowing, having technical knowledge is so important to you. But as a project manager, you manage people, you manage process you know so if you are managing an engineering project, in identifying your stakeholders, put someone that is an engineer on board. You see, so now let's look at myth, like what is not true that people are saying is true. PMP is only IT focused. I'm on this table, or I was on this table. The first time I was given the PMI.org website, because the person looked at me and said, what you do, because I was working in research organization and we're always managing project. Every time I'm talking, I'm managing project. I'm going to Kenya to go and brief project. I'm going to manage project Togo. Like I was always traveling. They said, I should do this. So I went as, this one is for IT people. He said, no, go back and read. And I took my time to read. I watched some of the webinars and I realized that it is not only for IT people. Then this memorized pinboard. Some people ask me, Jimmy, how many times should I read the pinboard? I said, you're asking the wrong person. Oh, this was the pinboard I used when I wrote my exam, pinboard 4th edition. And that time the exam was based strictly on the pinboard. And yours really didn't read it all. I'm not saying you should be like me. I didn't read it. So what helped me was a simulator. After I have failed 2 times, I passed my PMP on the third sitting. you know. And the person was like, oh no, you need a simulator. And it was when I was using the simulator that I realized what I thought were answers were actually not answers. So you memorizing pinboard, no, you can use it as a reference book. I have all the pin book. I have the eighth edition. So pin book is important, but you don't memorize it. In fact, you don't memorize anything, because if you memorize, you will not be able to apply them to scenario-based questions. Then agile replace predictive methodology. No, capital intensive projects are still managed predictively. You planning extensively, going through change control process and all that. So there are projects that are managed agile in an adaptive manner, and then there are some that are managed predictively. So no, none is replacing the other. Okay. The PMP exam is technical. I would say it's strategic. Okay. It's strategic. Now let's talk about fact or reality. PMP exam is industry neutral. That is why when you are PMP certified, you can manage any project, IT, agri, banking, construction, and everything. And sometimes people ask me, Jimmy, the certifications, which one should I do first? And I say, if you have money, I will say start with PMP. PMP is robust because I did PMP before I did PBA, professional in business analysis, and the knowledge from PMP helped me. The knowledge from PMP helped me when I did ACP. The knowledge from PMP helped me when I did CP, construction professional, because you do risk, you do contract, you will do interfaces. The only thing I would say that is not really broad in PMP is the interfaces in CP. So when you have the PMP, you have a robust foundation. In fact, when you go to PMI's website, the certifications are broken into two. You have core certifications and you have specialized certifications. And so under core certifications, you have CAPM, you have PMP, you have PGMP, and you have PFMP. That's program management professional, portfolio management professional. Those are core certifications. And then you have the specialized ones, the RMP, the ACP, the CP, the PBA, the PMO. You see, so if you can do your PMP first, it gives you, it cushions you if you want to do any of the specialized certification. So PMP is industry neutral. PMBOK is reference, not the exam guide. If you joined from the beginning, you know that the PMP is based on ECO, exam content outlines. And it was when I became ATP that I realized that this current PMP is based on the PMBOK 7th edition, 6th edition, and 9 additional books. Some of the books I have not seen them. So when you train with ATP, you have access to PMI's own training slides. We are talking, we pay for the PMI slides and we give it to our students so that you have access or you are trained on the resource that is given by PMI. And by now you should know that hybrid dominates, and you know that hybrid is made up of predictive and adaptive. An exam is leadership driven. You are a leader, managing people, managing resources, and you understand business acumen. You understand how the project you are currently managing fits into the strategic goal of your organization. So, who should write on or before June 2026? Candidates who already started studying, have application approved. That means you've gone through your 35 contact hour training, you've applied, and PMI has approved. So you are within your eligibility period. And then candidates who want to avoid future changes, like, let me write it before the exam changes. And then candidates who failed earlier attempts. I know how this can be annoying and frustrating, but just take it from me that if I could, because I have one head and you also have one head. So if I did it, you can do it. All right. So the benefits of writing the exam on or before June 2026 is that we have a lot of content out there. We are all familiar with the exam pattern. As the exam changes, even the ATP will be learning how the exam change. The only difference is we know that the three domains are still remaining, but the proportion of the exam for the three domains will change. You have more prep resources available. And thankfully, for the book I released, I waited until Pink Book 8th edition was released. So you can use excuse me, as a resource for the current ECU as well as the new ECU. Now, common mistakes people make: waiting endlessly to feel ready. I tell my students, I have about 8 PMI certifications, and I have 2 Scrum certifications. I have ProSci change management certification. I never felt I was ready for any. Never. The thing I do is that I try to fulfill all righteousness, to try to study the course content, and use simulator. But like I'll be there and say that, yeah, I'm ready. Wherever they come from, I have never. So if you want to use your feelings, you will never write the exam. I'm waiting. By the end of quarter 1, the pressure at work would have reduced. Nah, lie, nah, lie. If you want something so much, you will make time for it. You make time for it. you know. So that's a common mistake. Then overstudying pinbook only. I say, I've read pinbook. Even when the exam was based on pinbook, I know someone that said he read the pinbook 3 times. That he went to hotel, he left his family, went to hotel, and for 1 week he stayed there and read the paper. I was just looking and just, I'm going to write the same exam. So even now, overstudying pinbook only will not help you. All right. Then ignoring agile, that let me just focus on predictive. If I'm able to get all the questions right, I'll pass. Please don't ignore agile. Then over focusing on formula. This was one of my problems, because I'm an engineer. I was hoping there would be a lot of calculations, but the calculations were less than 5% of the questions, the entire question. So don't focus so much on the formula. And aside that, sometimes, like EVM, for instance, they will give you CPI, SPI, and say that for a value of CPI 0.75, what does it mean? So you should know what it means. So not just you knowing that the formula, but understanding the outcome. Okay. Then the fifth common mistake is that people focus on personal or the organization's approach to projects. And after I got the simulator, I realized that that was why I failed. Because when they ask question, I just, I told you I was managing project for like 6 years before I went to write the exam. So I just, yeah, you know. In fact, I didn't know that was my default setting until I got the simulator. So you have to be careful. So when you get into the scenario where you are arguing about, no, this is cannot be the right answer, just sit down and ask yourself, on what basis? It's because you are basing it on your personal or how things are done within your organizations. And hello, you or your organization, you are not the owner or the examiner. All right. So smart tips that I will give you: study with the ECO first, you know, and the ECO, it will give you tasks. So you get to understand that, okay, when you are talking about our stakeholders, we need to identify stakeholders, we need to analyze them. Okay, we need to now uh, prioritize them or put them in tables so that these ones are the key stakeholders. Okay, and then we need to come up with communications. Okay, so the key stakeholders, it means I have to communicate with them 3 times in a week, and the other stakeholders once a week. Okay, so the key stakeholders, I will engage with them and know what mode of communication do they want, what format, the content of reports and all that. You need the ECO will teach you that. Yes. So if you also have your training with ATP, PMI's authorized training partner, the training will be based on the ECO. Okay. So now you will now map the content with your studying, right? And then practice. In fact, if I'm writing exam and I don't have enough time, I'll be practicing simulator. And I will use it as a learning period, especially the review. I would have notes. If I came across a word, a phrase, a sentence that I don't know, I'll write it down. And then when I finish and I'm reviewing, I pay attention so that I will learn from the review what X means, what why means. So practice, get good simulator. Stop just googling and say give me you go to Google and search PMP practice questions. It will not help you. If you want to write exam, please look for money. Love yourself enough or prioritize the exam enough to spend money. Don't be cutting corners. And just as I'm about to release my book, don't be asking for PDF. Buy it. Okay. So practice 80% scenario questions. It helps you realize that, oh, okay, hey, this answer is wrong. Oh, I was thinking how I did it in my organization. Okay. Then focus on leadership mindset. Like I said, forget your title in your organization. Maybe you are just a supervisor, you are under, you are reporting to the assistant project manager. No. When you're writing the exam, you're preparing for the exam, you see yourself as a project leader. You have people under you, you're managing conflict, managing resources, procurement, and all that. And then servant leadership. You know, some of us, we feel when we are talking, nobody should talk. And that is one of the problems we have. Servant leadership, you serve your people, you serve, you know, and you will be tested on that. Then join my weekly power session with Jumoke consistently. I'll be having this unless something comes up and I will inform you every week. Um, when we finish January, I will share the topic for February with you. My goal is to be able to impact you, whether you are my student or you're not my student, to be able to help you pass your PMP exam. So, in conclusion, unlearn outdated information, do your homework, download your ECO. If you cannot find how to download it, let me know. I think I have somewhere where you can scan my WhatsApp and send me message. I will send you the ECO, you know. And this is my book. It will be published by weekend and be available for sale, hard copy, and you can also buy the soft copy online. You can scan this for our training sessions. We have training session scheduled for PMP, CP, RMP, CP, and exam prep. Exam prep means you have done your 35-hour training and then you just need support. And so this support will go over the 6 lessons. We'll practice some questions, tell you why this answer is correct and all that. And then give you a simulator that is made up of more than 1,000 questions. And the questions are time boxed. And if you are on the call and you are certified and you will need PDUs, please scan this and um, send me your name as you have it with PMI and your PMI ID, and then the PDUs will be assigned to you. So this is a time for questions, and please do support my work by following me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. I am there as Jumoke Lafenwa on all the platforms, and Okin Valley is also there as Okin Valley on all the platforms. And now it's time for questions. Yes. Do you have any questions for me? Hi Jumoke, which simulators will you recommend for PMP? I will recommend my simulator. I recommend my simulator now. Abi. So if you are buying only the simulator, it is it's 900 cedis. You have 41 quizzes, 10 questions, 12 minutes, 10 questions, 12 minutes, 41 of those, and then 5 exams. 50 exam one is made up of 50 questions, exam two is made up of 100 questions, exam three, four, five are made up of 180 questions, and they are all time boxed. What is ECU? ECU is exam content outline. And like I said I'm happy to um, send it to you if you're interested. This is my WhatsApp, so you can scan this, the lower QR code, and you can ask for it, and I will send to you. Yes, any other question or suggestions? All right. In the absence of questions or suggestions, we come to the end of this session, and do have a make a date with me next week, same time on YouTube. It makes life easier for me than to use Zoom and now, you know. On that note, I say bye bye.